So what is London to me now? London is endless construction and fixing things that they told us would never break. London is entrances you can't use. London is takeaway food delivery drivers. London is extra signage everywhere and used surgical masks on the ground. London is this nighttime ice cream van that keeps visiting my street. You know what? Sure. Yeah. Why not? So where was I? London is all my neighbours getting dogs. London is talking to Schindler
Floor 0.
more than most of my friends. Thank you, Schindler. London is quiet, but uneasy in that quietness. London is only the neighbourhood you live in, and not the excited metropolis you were promised. London is my next door neighbour singing all the time to Adele. So there's this thing that keeps happening in your videos, Plasping, that I do want to address in a bit more detail. You keep being strangely prophetic. Things that you do and say and film seem to be eerily foreshadowing. I want to just stress again, I've not touched these videos. I made them a year ago. I made the Plasping videos 1 year ago and I edited them that year, and I have not reshuffled them. I've not curated or cherry-picked anything to make it look this way. You're just weirdly kind of in the right ballpark. At the same time though, I have the insight of being you, and I know where it was coming from. So although a lot of stuff in these Plasping videos feels strangely on the nose, the intention and the thought process behind it all is way off. Plasping, this time last year, you were dealing with a kind of disenfranchisement. You were feeling very angry and very anxious, not necessarily about you and your life, but about the future and about the country and about the society that you were living in. I don't know whether it's an age thing necessarily, although you are coming up on your 30th birthday, or it may be something to do with finding yourself back in Walthamstow, in the place where you were born and you grew up, and moving into your own place and living on your own for the first time. They may be big factors. But in this moment, pretty much all the time, all you're thinking about is what's wrong with the world, what is lacking in your surroundings and in the current cultural climate and in the political landscape. For a time there, it was starting to feel very overwhelming. This feeling of knowing that there's so much wrong and so many things going off course with culture and politics and the environment and economics and injustices, and feeling like you're being properly awakened to it, I guess, in a significant way as you enter your 30s, and not knowing where to begin, not even how to help, but like how to fully understand it, how to even start to broach the subjects. So an example, right, in yesterday's video when you were walking around the Museum of London, you filmed a panel on the wall that had some text on it that said London had become a desolate, rubbly wasteland or whatever. I know that you filmed that because you thought in some way in the back of your mind that it would have some kind of poignant meaning about society and about the current state of London that you were observing. And although coronavirus is on your radar, you've made several mentions of it already, you still really don't think that much is going to come of it. You think at most it'll be a couple of weeks of being careful and maybe they'll shut down the trains a bit and then we'll be back to normal. The actual scenario that's about to unfold has not even crossed your mind. It couldn't possibly. So it's really interesting to me that given the context of this year that has passed, you're kind of somehow seeming way more forward-thinking and in touch with things than you really were. I love that these creative and poetic meanings have kind of been formed by the project. That's one of the things that I wanted to happen. But I felt like I needed to point out that it's coming from a very different and more internal place for past Bing. Out there in the multiverse, somewhere, there is a version of this world where the pandemic never happened. And there is a version of this project that was not interrupted by the pandemic. And in that timeline, I can definitely see past Bing doubling down on this feeling and really starting to investigate it and interrogate it, maybe to his own detriment, and maybe to the project's detriment. PBFB, or at least a large chunk of it, may have become this weird deep dive, this wallowing in helplessness and frustration. And when I consider that, in a lot of ways, I'm glad that it was interrupted. Because of course I want to express those feelings. Of course I want to put art out into the world that taps into the negative and the angry and the sad that I feel, not just the positive and the comedy and the what are we going to do today. I think it's important to make that kind of thing. But when you're deep in it, I'm not sure you're capable of doing so carefully. It's a beautiful day outside. You can't really see. It's sunny and it's cool and it's crisp and dry. It's my favorite weather. It's my absolute favorite weather. And I'm going to go out and enjoy it for a few hours. Meanwhile, past Bing, your next few days are going to be cold and dark. They are going to make no sense. They are going to feel absurd. But they turned you into me. And I hope, that's a good thing.